I'll start with just an introduction. I'm Toby. This is Cate. We're the parents of Asher, who is 15 years old, and Flynn, who is 10, almost 11 this month. And Asher was diagnosed with AHC at 2.5 years by Dr. Silver. Nice to see you. And it's been quite a journey. And one of the things that we've had to work on is taking care of ourselves, right, and our well-being. So a couple of years ago in New Jersey, Cate did a presentation on self-care that went so well that they asked her to do it again. But she told me I had to do it this time. So I'm doing it. It's a perfect time because I am swimming in cortisol right now. Crazy week, work, trying to get everything organized for the meeting here. Asher started a left side episode yesterday, and his brother's bored in the room next door. So it's a good time to think about self-care. So with that, I think we'll just jump in. I think the intent here is just to share some different tools and techniques, some of which one of us has used in trying to manage our own health and well-being over the time, and some of them are just other tools that are out there. I think the intent is really just give everybody kind of an introduction into things that might be out there, if they appeal to you, you know, to go learn more, basically. Is that all right? You know, I'll start with the obvious, which is AHC is super hard, and it's a daily challenge, right? The appointments, the unpredictability of it all, the taking care of others, and in that grind, it can become very easy for your health and your wellness to get lost in the shuffle. You know, I think the first thing that we've learned over the years is that the foundation is just an amazing resource that's here for you. You know, there's strengths in numbers, and you know, one of the harder things about AHC is there's no one like you around you. It's such a rare disease, and having that sense of, Flynn, you okay? Oh, you just listening? That's Flynn. Can you wave everybody to Flynn?
And I just want to kind of hop in and add something here. We talk a lot about in the foundation about the fact that the whole family has AHC. And at this foundation, we really do focus on taking care of the entire family. And I think one of the things, obviously, we prioritize research and looking for a cure and a treatment, but we also prioritize family support in a way that I don't think is often seen. And so, you know, when I gave this speech for the first time 5 years ago in New Jersey, yes, it was well received. And you can just, you know, just by going on the AHC boards, how parents are struggling emotionally and mentally, especially as the years pile up with this disease. And the response was wonderful. And like Toby said, they asked me to come here and do it again. And you know, we're happy to share this information, but it's a lot. And but again, I just wanted to stress, like, we really do care about the entire family, and the family support is a really key component for us. And that's why this is such an important presentation.
All right. You know, I guess I'll start with, you know, I think AHC is it's both traumatic and it's stressful. Traumatic, I mean, I'm guessing all of us can remember vividly when you first received that diagnosis, right? Or that first health scare. What is this? You know, I can't tell you what I did yesterday, but I can describe those points in life incredibly vividly. the unpredictability of it all. And that extreme trauma can be quite debilitating. And beyond that trauma, HC throws stress at you every day, right? It's every day there's something new to worry about, and you're never sure, unlike a lot of disorders, you never know what tomorrow's going to look like. Is it going to be a good day? Is it going to be a bad day? And there's such huge variability, and that creates a different level of stress. And I think it's important to recognize that chronic stress can create a host of health issues. Just at a high level, stress releases a unique set of hormones that are designed to help with that fight or flight response, right? So in any one individual situation, that's a wonderful thing of evolution to help us survive. On a chronic basis, those can begin to impact your health. And, it can range from digestion to heart to mental issues, to just a wide range of very real consequences. And I think this is kind of the foundation is you can't pour from an empty cup. So if we as parents aren't doing a good job taking care of ourselves, we're not going to do a good job taking care of our special kiddos. And so that's really the focus. I think 5 years ago, we used the analogy of, on an airplane, they always tell you to put your mask on first, right? If the masks fall down from the airplane, right? It's the same idea, right? If you're not breathing, you're not going to be able to help your kiddo. So it's that same idea. And I think, the self-care basics, we've all heard a lot, right? Alcohol, tobacco are bad, right? If you didn't know that. Eating healthy, exercise, and drinking lots of water are good, right? So I think those are kind of the basics that we all know as kind of tools to help with our self-care, but wanted to share some other ones as well, because there's times when it's just not enough. And so what more can we do? And so I wanted to talk a little bit about self-care kind of beyond the basics. And, the first one is a technique called box breathing. And I don't know if folks are familiar who have done this, but it's basically deep breathing in a way to help you calm down and be present. Do you want to say anything before we go to the?
Sure. Yeah, I think you did very well. Overall,
Grab the mic.
overall, breath work is very important, whether you have anxiety, depression, whether you're suffering from trauma or just having really bad days. The great thing about box breathing is, one, it's free, and two, you can do it anywhere. I do it all the time. It's gotten me through more anxious doctor's appointments and waiting in waiting rooms and just bad days in general. So it's just it's the easiest, I think, aspect of breath work. There's many different variations of it. But the box breathing is just, you literally inhale through your nose to a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, exhale through your mouth for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, and repeat the process. And you'll find if you do that for a few minutes, you can feel how much more relaxed you are and calm. So it's very effective.
You want to do that?
Yeah. I actually, do you guys want to try just a little? Do you want to do a little box breathing? We have an exercise here. Okay. Bill, can you play that? It's like a video. Should I start singing? I have a terrible singing voice. It's not working.
Well, that's fine. We'll move
Okay.
on and give time anyway. What I will tell you is, if you like, if you're interested, there's tons of YouTube videos that will also play very relaxing music and walk you through it as well. So great resources on YouTube to do that. The next one is meditation. Cate's a pretty good meditator. I'm a failed meditator, to be candid. My ADD gets in the way of my meditation. But, studies show that it does impact the neurotransmitters. It increases your serotonin, decreases your cortisol. I think, if you're going to try meditation, I think one of the best ways is kind of start with very small time periods and kind of start building that muscle. But it's a very good way to, kind of get focused in the present as well. From a resource standpoint, if you're interested, there's lots of great apps that are either free or very inexpensive to get started. I think two of the most popular are Headspace and Calm. And they're really good resources, and particularly for the beginner as well, and just kind of introducing you and starting to build up. Journaling is also one that she's much better at than I am. But, it's really, I don't know, do you want to talk about journaling?
I'll just add one note to the meditation before we move on to. Oh, okay. Before we move on to journaling. Meditation was really hard for me when I tried it. I thought it was a bunch of hooey. Like when I first dove into it, I was like, this isn't going to work. This is, and I sat there for 5 minutes and my mind was racing because I was really stressed out. I'm like, I just can't do it. It's just not going to work. And just through working with some really incredible people that meditate and have done it successfully, they kind of all started that way. So if you do attempt meditation, I highly recommend that you do. If you find yourself, stressed out or your mind's racing, don't give up. Don't think you can't do it. Just that's part of kind of building the practice. And like you said, start 5 to 10 minutes, but ideally for full therapeutic, you really want to meditate for 20 minutes. You'd like to build up to that. So that's meditation. Journaling is just, it's great, especially if you have a lot on your mind, which I think all of us typically do, even people without AHC. We've got a lot of doctors here. And you can have a quiet space in the morning and do it before the kids wake up. You can do it in the evening before you go to bed. I actually carry a journal with me in my backpack, so I write whenever I want to. I just pull it out and sometimes I doodle, sometimes I write thoughts, whatever I want, but it really does help to kind of clear your head and get things out on paper. It's really helpful. So I recommend it.
I think journaling's been around as long as paper and the pen has been around as well. Like I'm a history buff, and you read about like Abe Lincoln would always write letters that he wouldn't send, right, to help him process his thoughts. That's journaling, right? And so it's been around as a way to help you clarify and get your thoughts out there in the world. There's some great free resources on the web. If you just search, help with Google journaling, if you want to get started, it'll give you like prompts, things to think about, et cetera. There's some really great resources on the web there. The other one, which I do practice, is a social media break. And just, getting off of social media for periods of time or for good. It has been seen that it increases anxiety and depression. I think this is particularly true for those of us with special needs kiddos, because, nobody puts on social media their worst days. Everybody's life is perfect on social media. And so it really, the distinction between kind of what you're going through and what the rest of the world is going through is really out of whack with reality, and can create a lot of anxiety and depression, right? And so, it doesn't take much effort to just turn it off when it's getting in the way. And particularly in the evenings, it's the blue light compounded on top of that can screw up your sleep cycle, et cetera. So now we're getting into some other complementary medicine techniques, one of which is acupuncture. You've done that more than me. I've done it, I think, once or twice. It does come from traditional Chinese medicine. Basically, small needles are placed in key points. Doesn't really hurt. They're little needles. But what it does do is it releases a chemical as a reaction to the pinprick, and can stimulate natural healing. I don't know, do you want to talk about your experience with it, or, you know?
Hi, I'm back. This was another one that when I first tried it, I was like, this isn't real. It's not going to work. It was actually one of the most effective things that I did in terms of dealing with my trauma and the effects of raising a child with AHC and our other kids who also have some challenges. And it works pretty much instantaneously. Like even after your first session, you'll feel the results. And it's just really, I became a believer. I'm a huge believer in it. And I think Eastern medicine is slowly making its way to be more popular in conjunction with Western medicine as well. So, which is good to see.
Whoops. I'm not. Slide's not advancing. There we go. Here, I just wanted to share, right? It's not, you know, there is science behind a good amount of this. This is just one journal that I pulled, you know, that did look at, does it have an impact in reducing stress? The conclusion of the clinical study was, yes, that the acupuncture was superior to nothing in terms of reducing stress. So there is scientific support behind it. As well as massage. We all love a good massage. And there's a reason why. Again, you're stimulating receptors in the central nervous system that are leading to a reduction in tension, muscles, etc. You're releasing endorphins, the happy hormone. And again, here's a clinical study the Mayo Clinic was posting on, but you know, massage can lower stress levels and feelings of anxiety, improve mood, etc. So it can be an effective part of treatment. So another tool. I got one on Father's Day. So yoga, I'm gonna let you talk about yoga.
Yeah, yoga. So there's a lot of different yogas and different types of yoga, I should say. I think the key thing about yoga for me, obviously stretching, flexibility is all great, but it also focuses on breath work. Whatever yoga, type of yoga you do, breath work is a huge component of it. And I think that's one of the reasons why it is so successful and so popular. There's very aggressive kinds of yoga that you build muscle and you get in really good shape. And then there's very relaxing. It's called restorative yoga. My friends and I call it 5 ways to lay down because it's just for switching lying down positions. And it's very relaxing though. But the key focus is on breath work and balance and flexibility. So it's just a really nice practice to get into.
And again, in terms of looking at the scientific literature on complementary and alternative medicine, you know, again, studies do show that it does actually help versus doing nothing in terms of helping to manage stress, anxiety, and depression. There's also a lot of great apps for yoga on the App Store, whether it's Apple's or Google's, if you're interested. And I think, you know, most of them are free or relatively inexpensive as well. And then wanted to pivot, right? Because what we've looked at before is kind of self-care. And there's times in life when self-care isn't enough. And so wanted to talk about what that looks like. And I think, you know, the way that I would describe it is, you know, this is a toolkit for you to use. And I think of it in terms of 2 ways, right? There's tools in the toolkit that can help build your ability to cope going forward. And there's another set of practices or tools, if you will, that can help recover from traumatic events, right? And so if you're feeling particularly stuck, you know, that can help you get out of that unstuck. So we'll talk about that a little bit. You know, the first one, I think most folks are familiar, talk therapy. Talk therapy is really, it's a broad term for working with a licensed counselor. It's about creating an empathic, safe place to explore thoughts, feelings, and concerns, and to develop the tools to help you deal with what's going on in your life on a daily basis. Right. So that's kind of your basic talk therapy. From there, you know what, and what I would say is I think also here on this slide, you know, as you kind of move through these levels, you know, it's getting a little more higher levels of support, if you will. So if you start with talk therapy, you know, kind of building on that is what's called cognitive behavior therapy, which really focuses on how your thoughts and attitudes affect your feelings and actions. And so it's very focused on teaching you the coping skills to redirect those thoughts and attitudes. And so it's helping you recognize the thought, how's it making you feel? And then how do I intervene to stop that cycle of non-productive or non-helpful, stressful thinking? Do you want to say anything about that? I nailed that? All right, I'll keep going. So that's cognitive behavior therapy. It's really about giving you the tools to recognize when you're going to a place that's irrational, or you're taking something, you know, Asher's having a left side episode, and, you know, I'm thinking about in 20 years from now, how am I, right? Like, okay, stay in the moment. Let's just, you know, he's got to go to the bathroom. Let's go to the bathroom, right? You know, it's breaking that cycle of thinking. Dialectical behavior theory, I'm not as familiar with it, but I think the way to think about it is basically the cognitive behavior theory kind of on steroids, right? Or plus. It's particularly effective for people who feel emotion very deeply, so can get kind of emotionally deregulated very easy. And again, it builds on that CBT of giving me tools, but it leverages a lot more mindfulness and kind of interpersonal effectiveness. And so it's really grounded in the prior slide, but I kind of call it CBT plus, because it's really trying to give you more tools for those types of situations. Is that, yeah. Somatic experience is a super interesting one that we learned about, but, you know, basically, you know, the body system is meant to regulate in that fight or flight experience, right? And there's times when you can essentially get stuck either on or off, right? If you think about this graphic, your emotions are regulating in this kind of normal range. A traumatic event can spike you either up or down. Most of the times you'll return to that kind of regulated state. But there are times when you can get stuck either on, which is manifesting like anxiety, panic attacks, hypertension, or you're stuck off and under-regulating. And that's depression, lethargy, et cetera. And so I think the way that's really helpful for me to think about it is, you know, a pendulum in music, right? That can go back and forth, right? If that pendulum gets stuck, what do I need to do to get it back to where it's in the normal flow of life? And so that's really what some somatic experience focuses on, is getting you out of that stuck place and repairing that autonomic nervous system. So the fight or flight system, restoring it to balance. And it'll do that in a couple of ways. One is this idea of pendulation, which is this notion of, okay, if, you know, if I can spray a little WD-40 on the pendulum and get it moving again in small pieces, then that's going to, you know, get it lubricated where it can be moving. And then titration, so that you're breaking the work down into smaller, manageable steps. So this is almost a process that's designed to be kind of a gentler reprogramming of that traumatic experience in order that you can process it and move on. Wow, I nailed that one. All right. The next one is a similar way of processing trauma. It's called eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And this is again for dealing with trauma. And kind of the theory behind this one is that the trauma is being stored in a dysfunctional way in your brain. And that's why that's what's creating the anxiety, the depression, the inability to get beyond it. And so what it'll do is, either a light or here you're using like a finger, you're talking about the experience while some other stimuli is going on. And the theory behind it is that it's using this notion of dual attention. So, there's a blinking light while you're talking and replaying this experience. And that by doing that, you're almost, the metaphor I would use here is you're almost lifting a train that's gone off the tracks. You're almost lifting it up and putting it back on the train tracks so that it can run smoothly again. How's it doing that? It's doing that by what the light's doing. It seems very kind of kooky, new agey when you see it for the first time. But what it's actually doing is it's making your brain use both sides, both hemispheres at the same time to process the memory. So it's allowing the memory to basically get reprocessed again in a different way than the last time. And help desensitize the trauma so that you can facilitate the process. And then you're also using cognitive behavior therapy to help, okay, now that I've been able to reprocess those thoughts, what do I do to move forward? I think where somatic, the prior slide is kind of this gentle reprogramming. This is kind of more of the, proverbial 2x4 across the head. It can be like very emotional, exhausting, intense, but a lot of good data behind its effectiveness in terms of processing trauma as well. And then, I think the final one is around medication and, that there's lots of good medicines out there to help with depression, anxiety, et cetera. And I think, there can tend to be social stigmas out there around them. But what I would say is, it's your life and take control of it with the tools that are available. And, if you think medication's an option that can help, absolutely, talk to your physicians about that as well. And so, I think that can be an important part of the puzzle as well. Here, we just listed some resources, like some good books or podcasts that we've kind of embraced with over the years. I think this is going to be on the website, Jean, maybe. So it'll be on the website. So we tried to include resources here for people as well. With that, does my lovely bride have any closing thoughts?
You're so funny. I guess I just want to say thank you, first of all, for listening. And I hope it was beneficial. And I know that this is intensely personal and emotional. So if you have questions that you would rather ask me privately, I'm here all weekend. Happy to talk to you and set aside some time. But with that said, if anyone's comfortable asking a question in this forum, I'm happy to answer it. I know it's not easy.